Welcome back. Next, I would like to share some of the activities found in the Growing Up Wild Guide. The first of the activities that I would like to share with you is called Wiggling Worms, which is found on pages 20 and 21 of the guide. In preparation, you will need to bring in a container of earthworms from home, or if you are able to gather them at your school, that would be great. In the past, I have also purchased earthworms at a bait store. You should also prepare a piece of chart paper divided into 3 columns that will be used to create a KWL chart. The K is for what children already know. The W is for what they want to learn, and the L is for what they have learned at the end of the unit. Gather the children into a group. This could be at circle time. Show the children the container of soil. The earthworms will most likely be hidden when you first open the container. In this picture they are showing, but that is because this container has been sitting open for a while, so the worms tend to pop out. Ask the children what animal might be hiding in the soil. After they have had some chances to guess, move the soil so that the children can get a peek at the worms. Ask the children what they know about earthworms. And on your chart paper in the first column, you are going to write down the letter K for what the children already know. This is the start of the KWL chart, and you will make a list of the children's comments. Encourage them to describe where earthworms live, what they look like, what they eat, how they help people, and so on. During this time, you want to encourage all comments. Don't make any corrections, even if the children's comments are not accurate. Right now, you are just brainstorming to get an idea what the children might already know. You will have a chance to review these comments with the children later during wrap-up, after you've completed your exploration and study. Then, as a class, you can determine if everything listed was actually factual. Next, you will ask the children what they want to learn about earthworms, which brings us to the W of the KWL chart. In this next picture, you will see the KWL chart that I did with a group of educators. They wrote down a few things that they knew about earthworms. For example, that earthworms live in dirt. They're wiggly and slimy, and they come out in the rain, and they're not good to eat. And then they wrote down some questions about what they wanted to learn. What do worms eat? Which end is the head? What are worms good for? What eats worms? And so on. This is a great way to start the unit, as it gets the children discussing what they know and what they want to learn as they explore the world of earthworms and their habitat. Tell the children that they will now have a chance to look closely at earthworms to see what they can observe. Point out that they do not have to touch the worms, but if they do, they must be very gentle and not hurt the worms. You might introduce and suggest using the touching finger, which is the pinky held out with all the other fingers and thumbs tucked in. You can demonstrate this and show how they have to be very gentle when handling the worms. Next, you will have the children move to tables for exploration. On the tables, you will have paper plates with moist paper towels for each child or pair of children. Next, using clean, moistened fingers, you will place a few earthworms onto each stamped paper towel for the children to explore. In this picture, I have a group of educators doing this activity, observing their earthworms and making notes. Allow time for the children to observe the worms and guide their observations by asking, how does your earthworm move? What color is it? How does it feel? What is the worm doing? You'll notice that one of the tools that I have included is a magnifying glass, so that children can get a closer look at the worms to check out their skin and their body parts. Another tool that I like to include is a ruler, so that children can take measurements of their worms. Ask questions. Are all the worms the same length? Do they vary? How long is the longest worm? The shortest? Another tool that I provide is a moistened craft stick, which you see here. This is a useful tool for children who may feel hesitant about touching the worms directly, but again, show them how to gently use this tool to move their worms around. Again, it is a good idea to demonstrate this ahead of time to make sure the children are being gentle. The other thing that is really important to provide is a spray bottle for each table, and you'll see that here in the picture. Children can mist their hands and paper towels as worms need to stay moist. Worms do not like big puddles of water, so a gentle mist is fine. Again, you may want to demonstrate this as well. Here's another picture to share. You can see here that one of the educators is using the magnifying glass to get a close-up view of the earthworms. When you are done, it is important for children to wash their hands. And at the end of this activity, you can keep the worms in a container in the classroom for further exploration, or you can return them to where you collected them. As you gather back into a group, ask the children to share some things that they learned by observing the earthworms. You can now add these comments to the third column of the KWL chart, or what we learned, which is the L part listed here. And some of the things that our educators learned is that worms don't have eyes or ears, and they have a flat end, and they have a spot called a saddle, and it's closest to the head, and they can live for about 10 years. Finally, in this next picture, we have one of the teachers having fun, pretending to be a fish, ready to chomp on her worm. Finally, with any unit that I teach, I love to include books, and here are 3 books that you can find at our Shasta Library branch. The first 2 are non-fiction and are written for a younger audience. Both have great pictures, vocabulary, and facts about worms to share. One is called Worm by Jill Bailey, and the second is called Earthworms by Sue Barraclough. And the final book is a fiction book called Diary of a Worm by Doreen Cronin, who also wrote Click Clack Moo, Cows That Type. This is a fun book to share with the kids, as it is about life from a worm's perspective, and it includes his adventures with his friend the spider. This unit also includes some great art activities like worm trail painting, a worms and dirt snack idea, as well as extensions like setting up a worm bin for your classroom. I've known a few teachers who keep a worm bin in their classroom for the entire year. So that wraps up our Wiggling Worm activity. I look forward to sharing this activity with you when we meet in April.